Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Scared Shitless. This is a horror retrospective, the show that breaks open horror media like a gymnast's back after getting dust in her eye. That is a spoiler warning for anyone interested. This week, we are going to be looking at Final Destination 5. I'm Ryan, and I am joined by Al.
Hello.
Jamie.
Hello.
And Ali.
How you doing, YouTubers?
So, Final Destination. By the way, YouTubers is people who makes YouTube videos, right? People who watch YouTube videos aren't YouTubers; they're just people.
Yep. It's just my thing, man. Just run with it.
So, are you only allowed to watch this if you're a content creator? I'm just checking.
I'm saying hello to the fellow YouTubers. That's what I'm doing.
If you do not create content, then do not watch our videos. That's where we're going for this. Ali,
that is not the official party line. That is Ali's line.
That is Ali's line.
That's my line.
Anyway, so sorry, I got distracted. So Final Destination 5 is a 2011 horror sequel to the Final Destination films. They made it a couple of years after the release of The Final Destination because they did not want that to actually be the Final Destination. This one actually brings in a brand new writer and director. It was written by Eric Heiserer and directed by Stephen Quayle, and stars Nicholas DeGasto, Emma Bell, Miles Fisher, Arlen Escarp. These names are
welcome to
here.
Ryan's weekly butchering of half the characters' names.
It's worse this time. It is worse this time. David Cochner, Courtney B. Vance, and we have Tony Todd back. And his name I can say. Yes. And this one is, the same as all the Final Destination films. Someone has a premonition. They save them from a disaster. The disaster in this one is a bridge collapse. There's really no point in summarizing these stories any more than that, as we've kind of worked out at this stage. So, right, guys, Ali, let's start with you. Seeing as you've cut our audience to pieces already. What did you think of this movie as a whole?
It felt like I was bitch slapped back to the past. But yeah, it's. I enjoyed it a little bit more than the fourth film.
And you liked the fourth one?
The fourth film that you said was good.
One. Yes. My opinion is sort of a little bit changed.
Well, we can definitely discuss more of that in the next episode, because in the next one, despite this being the last Final Destination episode, next week we are going to be doing like we done with the Scream franchise and discussing the franchise as a whole. So I hope you tune in for that. Jamie actually pitched an idea to me for that episode while we're on it of pitching ideas ourselves for Final Destination 6. So if you want to find out what we think should happen, come tune in next week. But okay, Al, what did you think of this film as a whole without giving too much away at this point?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I wouldn't have said it. It's certainly not a favourite, but it is what it is. Once you get to 5 on any set of films, there's only so much you can do that's going to be new and exciting.
What did you think, Jamie?
I liked it better than the last one, but I think I'm getting a bit bored of Final Destination now.
Fair enough. I think that's a big something that when we watch these films one after the other, they can start to wear on you. Certainly by the end of a franchise.
I don't mind with Scream. I don't mind with like Scream and things like that. I've got a storyline and plot twists, but this is just we get a premonition.
In a film with no storyline, no plot twists, and the basic premise is the same in every single one of them.
Yeah.
And they're not exactly known for their characters or the acting in them either. I think, it doesn't make it easy. Personally, I really enjoyed this one.
I think I like the characters better in this one.
Yeah, the characters in this one are the best they've been since the first film, in my opinion. They're literally the best since, at least since the second where Clear died. These are the strongest characters we've had. But I'm just saying the series as a whole isn't known for its characters, which I don't think anyone could disagree with.
I want a prequel with a creepy mortician guy. Like, what's his backstory?
you want to know more about Tony Todd's character?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally do. Because he just pops up and says some mysterious shit and then fucks off. Like, that's it. That's all he does. He is a walking, talking plot device.
He is, but he does it well. That voice Tony Todd has, he pulls it off. He's creepy. And you want to know more, but when he walks away, you're like, conversation's over.
You're like, come back. No, don't go.
There's no point talking to this guy anymore. Conversation's over. What I did find funny is the scene in this one that they're talking to him, and he actually like waves his hand across at one point. And I'm like, I felt it came across as really camp when he was doing it. And I can't remember the line he delivered, but he's like sounding super badass, but then looking super camp at the same time. And I just thought it was quite amusing. But right, the bridge collapse. What did you think of it? I mean, that's a huge part of these movies is the
nice
disaster.
Effects.
So
it was nice effects the way that they done the bridge collapse. I thought one of the best effects in the whole franchise, apart from obviously the first one with the engulfed flame effect on the plane. But I really liked that.
I actually agree. I think it's one of the best looking disasters in the entire franchise. I think the only one that may be better than it is the pile up in Final Destination 2.
Oh yeah, that too.
What did you think?
That'd definitely be my favorite one. But I loved the sort of long shot of like, the final part of the bridge collapsing and it like tumbling into the river.
Too.
That was awesome. Like, I've no idea how they did that.
It did look incredible. And I mean, the thing, a lot of this one they done computer generated, but it looks much better than the previous film that they actually done practical, which looked computer generated. So it's weird how that happens, but I think it looked fantastic. And a lot of the kind of one-on-one deaths they still done practical. Like they built a prosthetic to go in the guy's face so that they could stick poles like through it and stuff. The guy who got impaled and impaled, and
is that when all the rebar comes off the truck?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like the black guy, Nathan, he's running towards them, and then he gets swiped by a crane.
That effect. I love that effect. It was beautiful.
And they showed how they done that. They they computer generated in the crane, but in real life they just had him sprint and had him wired up, and then they would just yank him at one point, and he's going flying through the air. And they're saying like the only reason they could do it so well is because he was really athletic. And he could take like the brunt of that force. They're like, otherwise they just wouldn't have been able to do that. But he's like, when his face changes when the thing hits him, it's not him acting. It's just the sheer shock of getting yanked from this thing. So I thought it was pretty cool. But as a whole, I think this disaster looked fantastic. And I think there were some interesting deaths in the disaster as a whole.
The deaths looked really cool too in this one. I think.
I love the first death. Like it was set, like the girl. I think was it the gymnast?
I love that too.
Just fell off and then impaled on the big. Was it on the top of a yacht or something? I don't know what. Yeah, and then that looked all. I mean, I'm sure it would have been great in 3D. But I mean, that might be another thing that. If they spent less time on 3D, I reckon it would have been even better.
Well, let's get to the deaths then, shall we? So, in this film, 281 people died.
Wow,
which is ludicrous. But if we take out the disasters, then we only had we only had 8 deaths out with the disasters, because there are 2 in this movie, which we'll get to the second one as we go through it. So the first we had the bridge collapse, in which there were 86 deaths. But then we had the first survivor's death, who was Candace, the gymnast, who in the premonition she was impaled on the yacht, as you said. In out with the premonition, she is attempting a gymnastics routine and is quite brutally snapped in half.
I love that. I absolutely loved that. That was an awesome effect, the way they done that.
What did you think about it, Al?
Yeah, I thought it was quite surprising because they kind of did the usual in these films in that they kept burying the lead. They were like, oh, it's going to be the water's dripping, the electricity, then there's the nail in her board, and but yeah, for it to be such a simple thing as essentially she falls off.
Well, it was the girl on the beam got the nail in her foot, didn't she? And she fell over.
She knocked over the tray,
yeah.
which the fan blew it, and then that got in her face. But essentially, she's just doing a routine, and something gets in her eyes, and she falls off.
Yes.
And but the impact with her folded in half, her legs are broken, her neck's broken, and it was pretty brutal.
Again, I looked at the special features, and they've done this by building a prosthetic for her back, so you could see part of her spine coming out. But then had like green stuff around her waist. And they brought in her stunt double, who was a gymnast, and they folded her stunt double's legs up around her. And obviously because the stunt double was wearing green, they were able to get rid of her from the waist up. But I think in the final movie, it looks pretty kick-ass.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that whole sequence was amazing. Like, the tension with the screw, like everybody knows, if you've ever stood on a plug, like you're just sitting there thinking like, oh my god, this is gonna be so bad.
Yeah, you think she's gonna stand on it, and you're like, oh.
And then the next girl comes on, and you're like, oh fuck, it's just got to be a catalyst. I think for me, I mean, I know there wasn't I think it was one of the most brutal kills. Like, I mean, there's been more gory kills, but I mean, for shock factor. And just sheer, you can imagine this happening to someone, falling off. And
I genuinely feel like you could feel the impact of her landing. Like it landed with a proper thud where you're like,
it was a crunch, wasn't it?
Yeah,
a thud and a crunch.
Yeah,
I love that.
It was pretty brutal. So the next death we had Isaac, who is I'd say the only person in this movie who doesn't feel like a real person. Came across much more, like a sleazeball cartoon character, like, proper Johnny Bravo-esque, but not nearly handsome enough to pull that shit off. at least in my opinion. And he is just sleazing it up big time at a massage parlor where he receives acupuncture, rolls off into the pins, is blown into a wall by fire, and then is crushed by Buddha.
And then he steal that certificate from a dead person.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
He stole it from one of their drawers, the desk drawers.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Along with like a cup full of change.
What did you think
of this guy's
I don't know. I thought this one dragged quite a bit. I didn't find this one particularly impressive compared to the first one, anyway.
What about yourself, Al?
I liked the Buddha falling on his head at the end, just because he was a dick and I didn't like him. But when he rolled off the bed onto the acupuncture needles, I felt that. That made it was just like, just the idea of it did make me flinch. But I totally see what Jamie's saying about there just seemed to be like there was a whole initial scene when he's at the reception, then with the older Asian woman, and it just seemed to go on and on and on. You're like, come on, just kill him.
I think for me, again, it was just a little bit too much because again, he just the only person who didn't feel like a real character. What did you think, Ali?
I agree with Al and Jamie. It did drag just a little bit longer than what it needed to. I did think when he was going to pull out the acupuncture pins that part of his skin was going to start to separate, as if it was going to, if he pulled any more, something could have came off. I don't know why that came into my head. This was the first time I've actually saw this film. But yeah, it got what it was coming from.
We did see him pull the one out and like a wee bit of blood come down.
Yeah.
And again, in the special features, they show that they actually built that. So they actually were pulling a thing out. It was really cool. The practical effects, again, are absolutely fantastic in this series in general. But next we had the death that really did make me cringe. I mean, people who know me know I don't like shit going near my eyes.
The laser eye treatment.
The whole.
I felt for her. I felt for her.
Yeah, and Olivia had one of her eyes burned out with this laser, essentially, only to get up and go flying through a window.
And that wasn't it.
I'm definitely never having laser eye treatment, that's for sure.
Then crashing into a car and somehow that dislodges her.
Yeah, her eyeball rolls out. So it's either way, this one definitely made me cringe.
And then the eyeball got ran over.
Yes, it did. Just to finish it off, we'll crush the eyeball with the truck. So, any thoughts on this one?
I wasn't expecting her to go through the window. not even thinking that.
That's what I was going to say. The one thing that kind of jarred me in it was that it's like, well, you can't just fall through a window like that. Not a window in a high-rise building. And I know there's so much more wrong with like why this would never happen. But that was the one thing I was like, yeah, but that wouldn't happen, eh?
You would just bounce off the window, and so you're like, no, that's too far.
Yeah.
That
was like me drawing a line with the vodka going on fire.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about you, Ali? Do you draw a line here, or are you okay with this?
Having had laser treatment myself, I absolutely.
Yet he still wears glasses inside.
It's my gimmick, and I'm sticking to it. I felt for the girl. I will say that. And thank goodness that never happened to me. But I agree with Al, where that just wouldn't happen. The way that she went through the window. I mean, the window would have had to have been that thick for her to go through it, I
liked the burning effect in the eye and on the hand. I thought that was very nicely done.
The next death we have is actually a new concept that they introduced into the series here. Fifth film in, and they decided to introduce the concept that you can get yourself off death's list if you put someone else in the way, aka murder. A good old-fashioned bit of murder, and you will take that person's spot on death's list.
I can't believe they've never touched on that
in
the series. So.
They did here, and as a result, Nathan accidentally put Roy in the way of a factory accident, and he was impaled through the head with a very large hook. Unlucky Roy. Roy was a dick. What did you think of the death? You get
deserved it.
It was quite quick.
Yeah,
it was it was the brief argument. He fell. You thought he was going to die as he tore his hands up going down the chain, and then the other guy was dead. But it's somebody you don't care about. He's a nothing character. He's been in 2 scenes. Maybe 3,
and he was a dick in both of them. So
he was a total dick. So you don't care. You're quite happy that he dies, and there's not much to it. So it was fine.
And we're like, oh, Nathan lives. Like this is the first time where like someone may legitimately have got themselves off of death's list in the entire franchise instead of death just looping back around. And then we have another super quick death. Speaking of quick one, where Dennis shows up, like, what the hell is going on, and gets a spanner clean through his head, pinged at him through like a conveyor belt on the machine or something. Jamie, what did you think of the spanner through the head?
I thought it was a cool effect, but I think they, after recording the first two, they realized they'd run out of time, so they couldn't come up with anything more
Let's
interesting.
get some quick ones.
So let's just bang out 2 deaths, which I feel is a waste because this film's all about the deaths. I mean, yeah, it was cool, but it feels lazy almost to me.
We then moving on again. We had Agent Block's death. Because this film reintroduced the FBI aspect to the whole thing. And Agent Block was shot in the back by Peter, who then takes his place and or his years, or swapped places on death's list. Did you like Agent Block? Did he make much of an impact? What was your thoughts, Ali?
I actually liked him. I kind of felt sorry for him. I thought he might have been the last person standing, so to speak, trying to figure out the whole mystery of how all this has happened. But I think he was just unfortunately, at the same time, he's just one of those characters that was just there. I got that feeling as well from the film, I should say.
What about either of you two? Did either of you feel anything about Agent Block one way or the other?
Well, he kind of grew on me a little bit. At the beginning, I wasn't particularly interested at all, but I thought he did seem to, as it went on, he did seem to sort of grow a little bit, and he was becoming a bit more of a sympathetic character rather than just a faceless government drone sort of thing.
I
just in time to get shot.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I certainly liked him better than the FBI angle they took in the first one.
Yeah, 100%. He seemed more like a person than the...
Yeah, it didn't feel as intrusive to the storyline, but at the same time, they should have just abandoned that and focused on better kills.
And he wasn't so stubborn that he couldn't realize that they weren't involved. I mean, at first he's like, well, something weird's going on here, but then he's like, well, these guys clearly aren't doing that. But something weird's still happening. He wasn't blinding himself.
That's a pretty fair assumption. When they're continually there around deaths, you go, like, well, you fuckers involved somehow.
Aye, something's going on. I just don't know what.
I don't understand how you broke how you destroyed a bridge, how you meddled with medical equipment, but you were fucking there, and I'm going to prove something.
Aye. So next we have Peter, who started the film as Sam's best friend, or one of his best friends, and slowly but surely kind of transformed into I wouldn't say a psycho. I mean, he survived this horrible accident, and then his girlfriend was snapped in half during a routine gymnast thing. It's and he finds that he can take place. I think realistically, I think his change was very actually surprisingly believable, and I think the actor's performance, the actor was Miles Fisher. I think his performance was actually really good, potentially one of the best performances in the series as a whole.
Did you just pick him to speak about because you can pronounce his name?
Potentially.
That's a good tactic, Ryan.
I like it.
But Peter, who turned from this sympathetic good guy to a sympathetic villain, in my opinion, was then literally skewered by Sam with a meat skewer after shooting Agent Block. What did you? I mean, the death wasn't exciting. I don't expect anyone to be excited by a skewering in this franchise. But what did you think of Peter's turn to villainy, as it were?
I think, like you said, I think it's quite believable that somebody, after going through that much stress and pressure, could snap. Essentially, it's almost like PTSD going to the extreme, and then they're just like completely lose it. So like you said, I think it was quite well done, and it's quite a believable twist. They haven't just thrown it in there with no explanation that he's gone fucking mental.
Yeah, especially when he finds out that if he kills someone, they can literally take his spot.
Yeah, but I mean, it literally, some creepy guy just comes up to you on the street and says something, random, and then you believe it. You've got to be in a really weird place to
Well, I mean, he was definitely not in a good place. Let's sum that up straight away. But
Yeah,
second,
but I mean,
if
like,
Tony Todd
yeah.
tells me if I kill you, I get your years, I'm believing him.
I mean, somebody comes up to you on the street and you're just like, oh, by the way, kill people and you'll be fine. You know?
He's not just somebody, Jamie. He's the Candyman. Right? If the
but they fucking don't know that. It's just a random guy.
What did you think of Peter's turn to villainy, Ali? I know you like a good villain from time to time.
It's just, it was the way that it grew, which was quite well. Starting off as being essentially a nice guy, and as Al says, it just grew and grew and grew to the point where he was like, "Nah, fuck this! I'm killing my mates, so I can prolong my life." But unfortunately, death had other plans for him. So,
true. I mean, he did prolong his life. He took Agent Block's years. However, by Sam killing him, Sam then took Agent Block's years. So Sam and Molly officially survive, or at least so we would believe, until they go to Paris and we find out this is a fucking prequel and they're on flight 180.
I didn't know if I was
back to the past.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was meant to be like pissed off at this or if I was meant to go, oh, I like that. And I still don't know. I'm still sitting here like, was this good or does this piss me off?
I think personally, I actually liked Sam and Molly. I think they were interesting characters. So again, I think the acting in this film was better than the previous films. And I didn't want them to die. I thought we were actually going to see them live. And then they'll be on flight 1.
Really?
I was like, what?
After 5 films where the people always die at the end, just as you think they're safe, you thought this people were going to live.
I thought this one was going to be.
You hoped they were going to live.
I thought this was the last one. So I thought they might actually end it with, no, they're fine.
Yeah, but the film that they called The Final Destination didn't end like that. So.
That's true, but that one was shit. So
yeah, but they still, at that point, thought that was going to be the last one.
They did.
The only survivor is, what's his name? Todd something.
Tony Todd.
Tony Todd. He's the only persistent survivor.
But yeah, Sam and Molly both die on flight 180, along with 185 other passengers. At least I looked in my notes for the first film to work that out. 187 deaths on flight 180. We now know 2 of them were them. And Nathan, who we thought had survived by swapping places with Roy, turns out Roy had like a massive tumor. So Nathan was crushed by debris from flight 180. Unlucky, dude. But there you go. Ali, what did you think of it? Oh, what were you going to say, Jamie?
And then the montage.
And then the montage, yes, which was a very cool montage. But Ali, what did you think of it being a prequel?
Well, that's what I meant by bitch slap back to the past. That was a huge surprise to me because I didn't look up any spoilers or anything like that until the end of this film. And then it dawned on me that you're thinking this film is set more or less at the time that they should be using smartphones, and then I thought about it, was like, to be fair, nobody used a smartphone during this film, like at all. Like any of the technology was made to look like it was from 99/2000, and it was very well done.
What did you think, Al?
Yeah, I think I quite liked that it was a prequel, and I think it kind of rounded it off quite nicely. They've kind of tidied up a little bit of the hurt that was really done in The Final Destination.
Yes. They've
put together a reasonably good film that's quite enjoyable, and I think that they could quite happily end on that. And they've tied the story up now in such a neat little bow that it would be strange if they did another one.
Well, I agree. I think Final Destination 5 really does round off the franchise perfectly. And I mean, in order to do that, they literally looked back to the start of the franchise, but I think they've done it so well. And I didn't see the twist coming. I'd seen this film before, and I completely forgot about the twist. But I only watched it once. I watched it when it came out. And that was it. You know, I never rewatched it, mostly because I was like, I don't want to watch Final Destination 4 again. So I was like, I'm just gonna leave it alone. But you know, this film was 10 years old now. And
Crazy.
speaking of them making another one, they are supposedly going to release a Final Destination 6. But like I say, we will discuss that next week in the franchise overview episode. So, Jamie, what was your favorite kill in this movie?
I'm giving my favorite kill to the gymnast girl for both her kills because they were both amazing.
Okay, fair enough. So we're getting skewered on the yacht and getting snapped in half.
Yeah, so that character, I can't pick between them, but I like both of them equally. So.
Okay, Al, are you agreeing with Jamie with Candace, or are you giving us a different? Okay, let's hear it. That was a very definitive no.
No. How dare you pick those, Jamie? You're a fucking moron.
No, I won't go that far because that was a badass test. But no, my favorite was one we haven't even spoken about. It was in the premonition when the boss gets hot tar poured over him, and then falls to his death.
Yeah, that was very cool. That was very cool.
And the hot tar went over him, and you could see all the skin peeled off his hands.
Yeah,
it was rolling and like sliding off.
Yeah, that was actually brutal. That was. I've got to give you that. That was definitely brutal. Another one we never mentioned in the premonition, which I thought was really cool, was Olivia, who's the girl who got the laser in the eye and through the window.
Yeah.
When she like fell off the bridge,
slid down,
but survived, and she was like, okay, and then a car dropped on her. I thought that was really good as well. But right, Ali, what was your favorite death in this movie?
It's agreeing with Al, actually. It was the premonition death for the boss. I loved that effect. I thought it was very, very cool.
Okay. And I'm actually going to agree with you, Jamie. I'm going to give it to Candace. Specifically, though, her getting broken in half. I'm surprised Ali didn't mention it, but when I saw that, I swear to God, I was thinking JR screaming, "By God is my witness, he's broken in half." I can't see something like that and not imagine JR screaming about it. It's Ali showing off his Roman Reigns t-shirt, I believe. That is nothing to show off, Ali. Get it off. But right, Al, quick roundup, and how many stabs would you give Final Destination 5?
I think, like we said, it's definitely an improvement on the last one. I really wasn't interested in the last one. It kind of annoyed me. I thought the characters were much better. The deaths were good. And yeah, there was a couple of bits in the story that I actually did quite like. Did like the better shot at having the FBI involved, and the fact that they kind of rounded it all up, tied in a wee bowl, and dropped a premonition on you at the end. That it was a prequel on you at the end. So 3.
Jamie, what do you think?
The premonition was definitely up there. I think it's the second best premonition in the series. A lot of the deaths were great. I thought they definitely spent their time making sure they looked a lot better than the Final Destination. The characters were better. Some of them were definitely more likable. The acting was better. I give it 3.5 stabs.
Ali?
3. I'll agree with Al. It's enjoyable. Acting was a lot better. And it was also a nice little twist that it was a prequel. So 3 stabs for that.
Okay. Personally, I think the acting was better. The characters were better, with the exception of Isaac, but the rest of them considerably. I actually like the addition of the you can kill someone to take your place, even though that's 5 movies in, they decided to introduce that. I still liked it. I think the premonition is the second best of the franchise. I think some of the individual deaths were up there franchise-wise. And I think I've been distracted, apologies. And I think, in general, it looks much better than especially what the last one did. Like I said, the last one, it looked like a cartoon. This one, it looked brutal. You know, there were bits where I was like, oh, that's a Syrian. So I'd give it 3.5 stabs, same as Jamie. So I think it's earned them. So next week we are going to discuss the franchise as a whole. My poster's come down. We're going to discuss the franchise as a whole, so tune in for that. On Monday, we are also going to be releasing a tier list video where we rank the deaths in the Final Destination franchise. So if you're interested in hearing what we think are the best and worst and the middle deaths too, tune in for that one. If you want more content from Jamie, he has 2 channels. The link for both of them will be in the description. One, he reacts to stuff, and the other, he talks about Harry Potter. If you want stuff from Ali, who may or may not talk about Roman Reigns, the link to his channel will be in the description as well. He talks about wrestling, science fiction, and comic book stuff. He just recently done a video on Star Trek. For more from Al and myself, check out videos on the channel. Click like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments if you were scared shitless. And as always, like any good killer, we will be back for one last scare.